And I remember one day them saying, Mom, I think I had to go out of town. And I was telling them that I was going out of town with Prison Fellowship. They said, Mom, we don't care where you go. We know you're coming back this time. Because there were times when I'd be gone for days and days using drugs. But now I can go today and they can say, Mom, we know you're coming back. My name is Deborah Daniels. I was born here in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. I have 4 kids and 7 grandkids. I was actually raised in what is called the Avondale part of Birmingham, Alabama. I actually grew up right in here somewhere where this building is. We would come out, you had the sidewalks, you'd meet your friends. I can't believe there are no houses here anymore. Wow. My mom had 6 kids and raised us all single-handedly. There was no father in the house. That was one of the things I really missed or wanted growing up, was to have that family environment where dad was there, mom was there, the kids were there, and you were doing things together. But of course, my mom had to work extra hard to make ends meet, so she was out of the house a lot. And I don't want to say my life was so bad that I didn't have moments of joy, but there is no memories like we went on vacation. In elementary school, I was a pretty good student up until I'll say about the 7th or 8th grade, when I decided to be rebellious. That's about the age that I started smoking marijuana. That's the community center. We set out and drink and smoke marijuana. We would walk out the door and there were places over there that we could go and get drugs at. It was really, really rough. This is where I purchased most of my drugs at. I did not want my life to take the route that it took, but it was an easy escape. I think the things that I mostly tried to escape from was my family environment, just not having some of the common things in life, like to just go shopping or to not have to eat sausage and eggs for dinner because that's all we had. I guess the other thing that really made me want to escape is the sexual abuse. You know, I started being sexually abused very young, I guess about age 7 or 8. As a little girl, I literally would daydream and sit for hours and think about how my life would be if my dad was there. I don't remember a whole lot about high school. I was pretty much out of it. That's the school I went to. That's Woodlawn. Over here is the cemetery. We used to actually go over there and smoke marijuana and sit on the tombstones or sit down on the ground. I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. I started indulging in crack cocaine. And I think when I started utilizing crack is when my life really, really took that downward spiral for me. You could never get enough. With crack cocaine, you could stay up for days and days and days and still want more and more. My first time going to prison, I was like 19 years old. Didn't do a whole lot of time, got an appeal bond, and was out within 2 weeks. And then I went back to prison at age 22. I did about a year and a half then, and then I went back to prison again at about age 30. I was sentenced under what was called the Habitual Offenders Act, and I got 20 years for theft of property, a nonviolent crime. And I did about 4.5 years on that sentence. That was a terrible time. You're housed in a dormitory area with 60 to maybe 100, sometimes even 150 women. And it can have rows and rows of bunk beds. and you have about maybe 3 or 4 feet in between each bed, and that's your living space. I don't know a whole lot about solitary confinement, and I only went one time in my incarceration. I felt like I was in a cage. It was dark. You had no real contact with human beings. The only thing you could have in your cell was a Bible. No other kind of reading material to pass the idleness, to pass the loneliness. I think that's abuse. It wasn't the system that worked. Remember, I went 3 times. If the system had worked, I wouldn't have went back. I think when you leave someone idle all the time, you're just setting them up for failure. Because then when you push them out the door and say, go live real life, and I haven't worked, I haven't had to do anything, how are they supposed to make it? They tell you to go and be productive and don't come back. But they haven't done anything to help you be productive on the outside. I got saved in prison in 1995 through some volunteers that came into prison. They were singing a song, Victory in Jesus, and it went like, I heard an old story, how my Savior came from glory, how he gave his life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. If I didn't go to their Bible study, they would make sure somebody let me know that I was missed. And nobody had shown me that kind of affection and care, that I was missed, that I had some worth and I had some value. So in 97, when I got out, those volunteers were from Briarwood Presbyterian Church. And I got involved at Briarwood Presbyterian Church and actually became a member of Briarwood for about 9 years after my release. Now, the first day I got out, I do remember having this feeling, not really of fear, but uncertainty. But I knew I had Christ this time. So I knew I was better off than I was the previous times I was released. What I did my first day is go home, see my kids, hug them, just kind of hang out around the kitchen table, look in the refrigerator 1,000 times till my mom said, why do you keep opening that refrigerator? Well, I hadn't opened one in 4.5 years. When the transformation came, I embraced it wholeheartedly because I just wanted life to be brighter, different, have a purpose and a meaning to it. When we make it difficult for people to reintegrate into society, we are basically telling them that we don't want them to be a part of the real community. And then we're promoting for them to go back to a life of crime. When I was applying for a position, I would be sitting having this conversation and they would be, well, yeah, you fit, you've got the skill sets, and yes, you. And then when they came to that part, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And they see it checked. Then they say, well, we still got some more interviews to do, and somebody will be getting back in contact with you. And I did get one job as a receptionist, and I would get there early, and I would stay late because I felt like I had to prove myself. And I remember this one particular incident where something came up missing. Well, Deborah's an ex-offender, and she's the one who gets the mail. So they released me from my job. You know, here I am, I've got 4 kids to take care of, and all of a sudden now I don't have a job. And actually it was during the holidays, and the mail was just delayed. But they found their check, and they sent me a letter apologizing. But that didn't help me at all. I still had 4 children to take care of. So, once me and my husband got married, he was an anchor in my life. I mean, he was a lifesaver. I mean, because when I came home and I was giving all 4 of my children back, it was overwhelming. But I did have the support of my volunteers and of my church. I volunteered with Prison Fellowship, and I wanted to give back. And I guess about 2000, a job became available with Prison Fellowship Ministries. Everybody said, apply for it, you're the person for the job. I did get the job, but I've been on board now 15 years. One of the things that I want to see happen, it's called the Offender Alumni Association. And it's based off of this model, kind of like AANA. One offender helping another offender. And offenders reintegrating and being restored to be leaders in their communities, to advocate for a system that is just, but to also be coaches for those that are coming out, and to be the volunteers that are going back in. Because we have never had a platform or a foundation that embraced us, we are fragmented. We have nowhere that we can build from, so that society doesn't have this stereotype that we're all bad people. There are good people in prison, and we need to bring good people home. But we also need to restore those people when we bring them home and give them something, a life that has purpose, that has some meaning to it. One of the things that I want people to see is my heart and my love for those that Jesus called the least of these. To see lives and families put back together, kind of like mine has been. To have a relationship with their kids. I have a sincere desire to see lives transformed.